we'll come back to this, but let's define the kind of spirits that will be influencing us. A few weeks ago, I gave a talk in, was it? A few days ago. Sorry. Yeah, we were just in Athens in Greece, and we gave a talk to a group of people there, and we talked about two types of spirits who are good spirits who can assist you with your life. One of them, you would have heard the term, is a guardian. Now, a guardian spirit is a spirit who's always in a higher condition of love than you are, who is assigned to you by God in order to protect your life as much as possible within the framework of God's laws. And that spirit is generally assigned to you at the time of your conception. Now, because this spirit is in a spirit of love, in a good condition of love, he does not overcome your free will, but he does drop thoughts, and it might be a she, by the way, so it's a man or a woman. By the way, all spirits are people who lived on earth. Who have lived on earth. This is something also that I find on earth that a lot of people don't understand. That there's sort of an assumption that if they're speaking with a spirit, that spirit is automatically, just because it's now passed, it's automatically gained the information of the universe, the knowledge of the universe. And the only information it's actually gained since it's passed is often that it's passed. Aside from that, it's the same person, exactly the same person that they were when they were on earth, with a few other abilities, and that is they can go where they desire to go in the dimension that they're allowed to through their soul condition. But all spirits are people who have lived on earth. So all the spirits I'm speaking about are all people who lived here before. Now, some of them lived here for a very short time. So in other words, they were miscarriages or abortions on earth, and so they didn't even have a life as a baby or a child. They died pre-birth, but they are still spirits and people who were conceived on earth still. And all spirits are people who have lived on earth. Now, that is a basic truth that I feel many people in the New Age movement forget. And when they forget that, they can make all sorts of assumptions about the spirits that they're speaking with that are often very false. And the reason why the spirits go along with the assumptions is because the spirits like the assumptions themselves. The spirits enjoy the lie just as much as the person on earth does. So that's one basic thing to remember. Now, some of these spirits who have lived on earth have developed in love, truth and humility. Remember that love, truth and humility are the core qualities which will enable your long-term spiritual development, even after you pass. Now, some of the spirits are developed in love, truth and humility. One of them is your guardian. Your guardian being the person who's been assigned to you to protect you throughout the course of your life. It usually is the same spirit who's assigned to you for your entire life. Sometimes it changes, but it's rare. It's usually the same spirit. Oftentimes it's a person who has had a history with you genetically sometimes. So it can be like a great-grandmother or a great-grandfather or a grandfather, someone who has a personal interest in you, but who has developed in love, truth and humility more than you currently are, because they are able then to guide you within the framework of God's laws. The next spirit that has a part in your life, so remember this is from conception. The next spirit that has a part in your life is your guide. And you can have multiple spirits who guide you. Now, your guides are very dependent on two factors. Their personality generally is very much similar to your own, or is they enjoy your personality quite significantly. Secondly, they are assigned by God to guide you spiritually with regard to your growth in love, truth and humility. That's their primary purpose. They are always more highly developed than yourself in love, truth and humility. But the third factor is they actually also have common interests or desires that you have. And this is why your guides may change throughout your life. Your guide will change when your desires and interests change. So, for example, let's say you were so interested in religion and you decided that the area of religion that you were very interested in was Christianity. Then your guide that would be assigned to you would have an interest in the same type of religion, right? And potentially a history in it as well on earth. And because he's developed more, or she has developed more in love, truth and humility, she can assist you, or he can assist you to develop in the different form of interest that you currently have. So that's your guide. So is there any questions about those two spirits? Both of them are more highly developed in love than you are. And in fact, many people, when they say they feel God, they're not actually feeling God. They're actually feeling they're a guardian of their guide. Right?
Surely there could be instances in your incarnation that propel you in love, truth and humility to such an extent that you exceed your guardian, which is assigned to you at birth, and all your guides.
And you generally don't exceed your guardian because her primary role is to try to protect your physical life. So it's rare for a person to not have that person with them. And even when the person on earth develops fully on earth and becomes at one with God, the guardian may still be around them anyway, more as a friend, because they've been with them all their life anyway and they enjoy their company. With your guide, what you said is especially true. If you can, on earth, exceed the development of your guide, because at times it's easier sometimes to progress on earth in love, truth and humility under certain circumstances. And with those certain circumstances, the guides don't have those particular circumstances, and so what will happen is the guide will swap. In other words, there will be a person who's even more developed in love than your guide that will then change over the role of guiding you to help you further. So that's the general case with those particular spirits. Yeah. Sure. Kerry, and then
if God has no fear, why does she assign us a guardian to keep us safe if we're always safe, I guess, in God's eyes?
Well, God certainly has no fear, but we often do. And the problem with our fear is that it's the primary thing that prevents us from connecting to God. Now, because we're now no longer connecting to God because of our fear, because we have all of these false beliefs and false expectations that appear real to us that are not really real from God's perspective, God has put into place these people who have lived on earth, who have been through very, very similar experiences to ourselves, to help us get over our fears. And remember, our fears, it's the suppression of our fears that creates our addictions. So they're actually there to also assist us to get over our addictions, right? And in fact, it's a lot of our times where what we're afraid of is really about our true feelings, which is our grief, and they will help us get into our grief. They'll help us to actually release our grief so that we're no longer afraid of anything anymore. And so these guides' role is to basically help us come to God, because we, on the planet in particular, we are so far removed from God that we do need assistance from people who have progressed beyond our progression. Does that make sense, Barry?
Yeah, I think. Are the guardians specifically assigned, or is it the desire of the spirit to want to become a guardian?
It's a combination of both factors. Obviously, God wouldn't assign somebody who doesn't want to do the job. Yeah. Does that make sense? So the first thing to realise with regard to God is that God's not going to assign you a guardian who basically says, I hate Perry, I don't want to help him at all. You know, like that's definitely not going to be the case. It has to be a person who is really passionately interested in your life. It has to be somebody who's really keen to be your guardian. And the same applies to your guides. You know, God's not going to assign somebody who goes, yeah, Perry's really interested in gardening, right? And these guys might help you to bring gardening into this love, truth and humble place. But I don't like Perry very much, but I'll help him because it's about gardening. It's not like that either. The guide has to be passionately interested in the person. And in fact, the way God assigns the guides is that they are always the ones who are most passionately interested in the person that is present in the spirit world. Yeah? We go back to over there and then down.
Just asking, earlier you turned around and said we wake up in the morning, some of us, and we go, hey guys, can you give us a hand? If we've got a guardian and or a guide, do we specifically ask them? And if we don't know who they are, how can you communicate? And how do we know the difference?
They're all good questions, which I hope to answer through this discussion.
All right.
If we can.
Okay.
So, so very good questions about how do we know the difference? Who are we actually connecting with? And this is what I want to discuss with you mostly, because we need to know who we're connecting with. We need to know the difference between God, our guide, our guardian, and other spirits. And to be frank with you, mostly it's other spirits that are influencing us and through our addictions. And we need to know the difference between those particular spirits and these two roles that different spirits have. So you could say those two roles are benevolent spirits interested specifically in assisting you, firstly with regard to your direct personal welfare and safety, and secondly with regard to helping you learn the truth about your life and to learn more about love, truth and humility. Does that make sense? You could say that that's their role. Mary, you had a question you wanted to ask?
It was just following on from Perry's point about guardians, and that if God feels we're completely safe all of the time, why do we need a guardian? And my question was about, the loving provision of guardianship and the value of our life here on earth.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, God's laws are all loving. And God did create an entirely loving universe in which we can live. However, God also gave us the gift of free will as mankind and a person on earth. We're given the gift of free will. The gift of free will means that people can try to, and they do, attempt to break God's laws. Does that make sense? Free will means you're allowed to attempt to break God's laws. If you have free will, you can do anything you wish, even if it's unloving. You're allowed to do that. Now, the problem with that is that many people on earth, in particular, in the spirit world it's a bit different in different locations, but on earth, many people then use their free will in direct disharmony with love. Would you agree with that? So on earth we get this effect that now the earth becomes a more dangerous location, right? Not because of God's choice, but rather because of man's own creation. A person who is exercising their free will out of harmony with love automatically makes your life more difficult. And it depends on how badly they want to exercise their will out of harmony with love. If they want to murder you, then they're going to make your life quite difficult. But if they're going to torture you, that's going to probably be worse. If they're going to hold you in prison for 25 years, then that's going to be pretty bad. And there's all sorts of things that people out of harmony with God's laws can choose to do. And that turns the earth into a more dangerous location than what God originally intended that it would be. For that reason, God automatically created, knowing that that would occur, God created this ability for us to receive assistance from these two groups of spirits so that we could deal with and remain harmonious with humility, love and truth while we're living life on the earth. Does that make sense?